me describe two people to you and tell me which one sounds more successful. Person A is 55 years old, makes $95,000 a year, has been diligently saving in their 401k for 25 years, currently has $380,000 saved for retirement. They're following all the conventional wisdom. They're doing exactly what financial advisors told them to do. They believe if they keep going for 10 more years, they'll retire comfortably at 65 with about $650,000. They feel good about their progress. They think they're on track. Person B is also 55, makes the same $95,000 a year, started with the exact same amount saved 10 years ago. But they questioned everything they'd been taught about retirement. They challenged the conventional myths. They did the math themselves. Today, they have $890,000 saved, not $380,000. In 10 years, they'll retire with $2.1 million, not $650,000. Same income, same starting point, but person B will have over $1.4 million more in retirement. That's not a rounding error. That's the difference between a comfortable retirement and a wealthy retirement. That's the difference between financial stress and financial freedom. The difference between these two people isn't luck. It's not inheritance. It's not a better job or higher salary. The difference is that person A believed 5 critical money myths that everyone repeats but almost nobody questions. Person B recognized these myths for what they are, lies that sound true but cost you millions. And once you see these myths for what they are, you can't unsee them. Your entire retirement strategy changes. Your wealth trajectory changes. Your future changes. If you're planning for retirement, if you're following conventional advice, if you believe what financial institutions and mainstream advisors tell you without questioning it, this video is going to shatter your assumptions. My name is John, and I've spent years analyzing retirement outcomes and the beliefs that predict success or failure. And what I've discovered is genuinely disturbing. The 5 most commonly accepted pieces of retirement wisdom are myths, not just wrong, catastrophically wrong, and believing them is costing you hundreds of thousands, maybe millions in lost retirement wealth. If this makes you uncomfortable, hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up because what I'm about to share could add over $1 million to your retirement. These aren't opinions. These are mathematical facts that most people never discover until it's too late to fix. Let's break down each myth, show you why it's wrong, and give you the truth that actually builds wealth. Myth number 1. You only need to save 10 to 15% of your income for retirement. This is probably the most repeated piece of retirement advice in existence. Every financial advisor, every article, every retirement calculator tells you the same thing. Save 10 to 15% of your income starting in your 20s, and you'll retire comfortably at 65. It sounds reasonable, it sounds achievable, and it's completely insufficient for 2026 reality. Let me show you why with real numbers. Let's say you're 25 years old, making $50,000 a year. You save 15% every year, that's $7,500 annually. You get 3% annual raises. You invest in a balanced portfolio averaging 8% returns, which is conservative when you're young, but let's use it. At 65, after 40 years of diligent 15% savings, you'll have approximately $1.4 million. That sounds like a lot until you run the withdrawal math. Using the 4% rule, you can safely withdraw $56,000 per year. But you were making $163,000 in your final working year after all those 3% raises. You're taking a 66% pay cut in retirement. You go from $163,000 to $56,000. Add Social Security of maybe $35,000, you're at $91,000 total. You're still taking a 44% pay cut. Your lifestyle has to dramatically decrease. The travel you dreamed about? Can't afford it. Helping your kids? Limited. Healthcare costs as you age? They're eating into that budget significantly. This isn't comfortable retirement. This is managed decline. You're not maintaining your lifestyle. You're surviving on a fraction of what you earned. And this is if everything goes perfectly. No market crashes right before retirement, no unexpected medical expenses, no long-term care needs, no inflation spikes. The 15% rule was created in a different era with different retirement realities. Shorter retirement spans, better pensions, lower healthcare costs, lower life expectancy. None of that applies today. Here's the truth that nobody wants to tell you. In 2026, you need to save 20 to 25% of your income minimum to maintain your lifestyle in retirement. Let's run the same scenario at 25% savings. You're 25, making $50,000, saving $12,500 per year. Same 3% raises and 8% returns. At 65, you have $2.3 million. That's $92,000 per year in withdrawals, plus $35,000 Social Security equals $127,000 annual income. You were making $163,000 in your final year. That's a 22% pay cut, which is manageable. You can maintain most of your lifestyle. You have breathing room for the unexpected. The difference between 15% and 25% savings is $900,000 in retirement wealth. That's not a small difference. That's the difference between stress and security. But here's what's crazy. Financial institutions keep pushing the 15% myth because they know most people can't even hit that. If they told you the truth that you need to save 25%, you'd feel defeated before you start. So they give you a comfortable lie that keeps you engaged but leaves you broke. Don't fall for it. Save 20 to 25% if you actually want to retire well. Myth number 2, your expenses will decrease by 20 to 30% in retirement. This myth is everywhere. Retirement calculators default to it. Financial advisors build plans around it. The logic sounds reasonable. You're not commuting anymore, saving gas. You're not buying work clothes. You're not contributing to retirement accounts. You paid off your mortgage. Your expenses naturally decrease, right? Wrong. For most people, expenses stay the same or increase in retirement. Let me show you what actually happens. Yes, you eliminate some costs. No more 401k contributions, that's 15 to 20% of gross income back in your pocket. No commuting costs, maybe $3,000 per year saved. No work wardrobe, maybe $1,000 per year saved. If your mortgage is paid off, that's significant. But look at what increases. Healthcare costs explode. Even with Medicare, you're paying for supplemental insurance, prescriptions, co-pays, and out-of-pocket expenses. The average 65-year-old couple spends $15,000 to $20,000 per year on healthcare. By 75, that's often $25,000 plus. Travel increases because you finally have time. You spent 40 years dreaming about seeing the world. Now you're doing it. That's $10,000 to $20,000 per year minimum for active retirees. Hobbies and entertainment increase because you have 40-plus hours per week to fill. Golf, dining out, concerts, classes all cost money. Helping adult children increases. Your kids are in their 30s and 40s, buying homes, raising grandkids. You want to help. That's another $5,000 to $10,000 per year for many retirees. Home maintenance increases because your house is older and you're doing projects you deferred while working. Add it all up. For many retirees, expenses don't decrease, they shift and often increase. The Fidelity Retirement Savings Assessment shows that the median retiree spends 95% of their pre-retirement income in the first 5 years of retirement. Not 70%, not 80%, 95%. By year 10, it drops to about 85% as health declines and activity decreases. But you need to plan for maintaining your lifestyle, not for a dramatic reduction that probably won't happen. Here's the truth. Plan for 90 to 100% of your pre-retirement expenses for the first decade of retirement. Then you can maybe reduce to 80% as you slow down. But don't build your entire retirement plan on the assumption that you'll happily live on 30% less than you do now. You won't. And if you plan for that, you'll run out of money right when you need it most. This myth isn't just wrong, it's dangerous because it convinces you to save less than you need. Myth number 3, Social Security will cover a significant portion of your retirement income. This myth is so ingrained that most people don't even question it. They see Social Security as a guaranteed safety net that will provide 30 to 40% of retirement income. But the numbers tell a different story, especially for higher earners, and the system faces long-term solvency issues that nobody wants to talk about honestly. Let's look at the reality. The average Social Security benefit in 2026 is about $1,900 per month or $22,800 per year. If you earned higher wages, your benefit might be $2,800 per month or $33,600 per year. But there's a cap. The maximum Social Security benefit at full retirement age is about $3,800 per month or $45,600 per year. If you made $100,000 plus for most of your career, your Social Security replaces maybe 25 to 30% of your pre-retirement income. Not 40%, not 50%, about 25 to 30%. But it gets worse. Social Security faces a funding shortfall. According to the Social Security trustees, the trust fund will be depleted by 2034. At that point, incoming payroll taxes will only cover about 77% of scheduled benefits. That means your $3,000 per month benefit becomes $2,310 per month, a 23% cut. Now, Congress will probably fix this before 2024. They'll raise taxes or raise the retirement age or means test benefits or some combination. But the fix will involve some people getting less than promised. Additionally, Social Security benefits are partially taxable for many retirees. If your combined income, which includes half your Social Security plus other income, exceeds $34,000 for individuals or $44,000 for couples, up to 85% of your Social Security is taxable. You're paying income tax on your Social Security benefit that you already paid payroll tax on. For higher earners in retirement, this significantly reduces the net benefit. Here's the truth. Social Security should be treated as supplemental income, not foundational income. Build your retirement plan assuming Social Security covers 20 to 25% of your needs. If it ends up covering more, great, you have extra security. But if you're counting on it for 40% and it gets cut or taxed heavily, you're in trouble. The people who retire successfully don't depend on Social Security. They view it as a bonus that makes their already secure retirement even more comfortable. Plan without it, retire with it. That's the smart approach. Myth number 4. You should shift to bonds and conservative investments as you approach retirement. This is the 100 minus age rule or variations of it. The idea is that as you get older, you need to reduce risk by moving money from stocks to bonds. By retirement, conventional wisdom says you should be 50% stocks and 50% bonds, or even more conservative. This advice made sense in 1970. It's terrible advice in 2026. Here's why this myth is killing your retirement. When this advice was created, people retired at 65 and lived until 72. That's 7 years of retirement. You needed safe, stable income because you'd be spending that money quickly. You didn't need growth. But today, people retire at 65 and live until 85 or 90. That's 20 to 25 years. Your money needs to keep growing for 2 decades after you retire. If you shift to 50% bonds at retirement, you're cutting your growth rate in half right when you need it to last the longest. Let me show you the math. You're 65 with $1 million saved. Traditional advice says go 50% stocks and 50% bonds. Stocks average 10% returns, bonds average 4%. Your blended return is 7%. You withdraw $40,000 per year adjusted for inflation. After 25 years, at 90 years old, you have about $620,000 left. Not bad, you didn't run out. But now, let's say you ignore the myth and stay at 70% stocks and 30% bonds. Your blended return is 8.8%, same $40,000 annual withdrawals. After 25 years, you have $1.4 million left. You actually have more money at 90 than you did at 65, even after 25 years of withdrawals. The extra stock exposure gave you an extra 1.8% in returns, which over 25 years is massive. That extra growth means your money lasts longer, gives you more to leave to heirs, and provides buffer for unexpected expenses. But conventional advice would have you miss out on that growth for safety you don't actually need over a 25-year time horizon. The only scenario where heavy bond allocation makes sense is if you're going to spend all your money in 5 years, but you're not. You're spending it over 25 plus years. You need growth. Here's the truth for 2026. Use the 120 minus age rule, not 100. At 65, you should be 55% stocks, not 40%. At 70, you should be 50% stocks. At 75, you should be 45% stocks. You need to maintain significant stock exposure throughout retirement because retirement is long and inflation is real. Your money needs to keep growing. Shifting to conservative investments too early is a slow-motion financial disaster. You don't run out of money dramatically, you just slowly lose purchasing power until you're 85 and broke. Stay invested in stocks. That's the real safety. Let me destroy this myth with simple math. Person A starts saving $500 per month at age 25 and stops completely at 35. They contribute for 10 years, total of $60,000 contributed. Then they let it grow untouched until 65. At 10% returns, they have $1.74 million at retirement. Person B waits until 50 to start. They save $1,500 per month for 15 years until 65. They contribute $270,000, more than 4 times what person A contributed. At the same 10% returns, they have $635,000 at retirement. Person A contributed $60,000 and has $1.74 million. Person B contributed $270,000 and has $635,000. Same returns, person A has $1.1 million more because they had 25 extra years of compound growth. This is the brutal reality of compound interest. Time is more valuable than money. The years from 25 to 35 are worth more than the years from 50 to 65, even though you're contributing less. Every year you delay starting is a year of growth you can never get back. You cannot make it up by saving more later. The math doesn't work. And here's what makes the catch-up myth even more dangerous. People in their 50s and 60s often can't save as aggressively as they think they will. Aging parents need financial help or care. Kids need help with college or weddings or down payments. Health issues arise requiring medical expenses. Income doesn't always increase as expected. Layoffs happen. You're not as hireable at 55 as you were at 35. The assumption that you'll earn more and save more in your 50s is often wrong. Many people earn less in their 50s than their 40s due to career plateaus or industry changes. So you're planning to save heavily at the exact time life is most expensive and income is most uncertain. Here's the truth. If you're in your 20s or 30s, start now. Even $100 per month starting at 25 becomes $632,000 by 65. If you're in your 40s and haven't started, you're in emergency mode. You need to save 25 to 30% minimum and keep that up for 20 to 25 years. If you're in your 50s with little saved, you need to save 35 to 40% and seriously consider working until 70. There is no catching up. There's only doing the math on what's actually required and having the discipline to execute it. The catch-up myth is a comforting lie that keeps you poor. Now let's look at what happens when someone believes all 5 myths versus someone who rejects them. Person A, the myth believer, is 30 years old making $60,000. They save 15% because that's what they were told, thinking they can catch up later if needed. They plan for expenses to drop 30% in retirement. They're counting on Social Security to cover 40% of retirement income. They plan to shift heavily to bonds at 60. They believe they can always save more in their 50s if needed. At 65, they have $680,000 saved. They shift to 40% stocks and 60% bonds. They withdraw $27,200 per year at 4%, plus $25,000 from Social Security, total income $52,200. But their expenses didn't drop 30%, they dropped 10%. They need $65,000 per year to maintain lifestyle. They're short $12,800 annually. They start withdrawing extra from savings. By 75, they've depleted their account to $320,000. By 82, they're broke. They rely entirely on Social Security. Their retirement dream died because they believed myths. Person B, the myth rejector, is also 30, making $60,000. They save 25% from the start, ignoring the 15% myth. They plan for maintaining 90% of expenses in retirement. They treat Social Security as a bonus, not foundational. They maintain 60% stocks through retirement. They know they can't catch up later, so they save aggressively now. At 65, they have $1.7 million saved. They maintain 60% stocks. They withdraw $68,000 per year, plus $25,000 Social Security. Total income, $93,000. Their expenses are $70,000. They have $23,000 annual surplus. Their money continues growing even in retirement. At 82, they have $2.4 million. They're wealthier at 82 than 65. They fund their dream retirement and leave a legacy. Same starting age, same starting salary, completely different outcomes. The difference is beliefs. Person A believed myths and paid the price. Person B questioned everything and built wealth. Which person are you going to be? Here's your action plan starting today. First, audit your current retirement beliefs. Go through each myth. Are you saving 15% thinking it's enough? Are you planning for a dramatic expense reduction? Are you counting heavily on Social Security? Are you planning to shift to bonds soon? Are you thinking you'll catch up later? If yes to any of these, you're in danger. Second, calculate what you actually need. Use a realistic retirement calculator that doesn't assume 30% expense reductions or heavy Social Security dependence. Input your actual expected expenses. Look at the number. That's your real target. Third, adjust your savings rate to hit that target. This might mean going from 10% to 25%. That's a huge adjustment. You'll need to cut expenses, increase income, or both, but it's necessary if you actually want to retire. Fourth, maintain aggressive stock allocation longer than conventional wisdom suggests. Use 120 minus age through retirement. Fifth, eliminate the word catch up from your retirement vocabulary. There is no catching up. There's only doing what the math requires right now. If you're behind, you need to save more and work longer. That's the reality. The sooner you accept it, the sooner you can fix it. These 5 myths have destroyed more retirement dreams than market crashes, bad investments, or poor planning, because they're accepted as truth. Everyone repeats them. Financial institutions benefit from them, and millions of people believe them until they're 70 and broke and wondering what went wrong. You now know the truth. The question is whether you'll act on it or keep believing comfortable lies. Rejecting these myths and following the mathematical truth could be worth $1 to $2 million in additional retirement wealth. Continuing to believe them guarantees you'll struggle in retirement. The choice is yours, but you can't say you weren't warned. If this video shattered your assumptions about retirement, smash that like button and subscribe to the Penny Plan for more content that tells you the truth instead of comfortable lies. These 5 myths could be costing you your retirement dream. Stop believing them.